Everybody, we'll get started here. I am sharing my screen, so I'm going to ask Daryl or Holly to put the link for sign in chat because it messed up my screen here. Welcome to the November PUC task force meeting. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will call the order, and I have us at 10:03, and I see that we are recording, so thank you, Holly. And if Holly is ready, I think we're ready for roll call.
Good morning, everybody. All right. So it is the month of November. Representing CCI. Scott, Tina, Julie, or Allison?
Allison's here.
Thank you. Representing CML, Jacqueline?
Jeremy, I'm the new Jacqueline.
Jeremy, you're the new Jacqueline. I think I have to wait until we vote. Or actually, no, I don't think we do because that seat is designated for you. I will update this. All right. Representing accessibility community, Cheryl. Good morning, Cheryl. Representing members at large, Chad Weber. All right, I do not hear or see Chad in the chat. Representing Lumen, Tim. Or anybody from Lumen.
Jeff Winkleman is on.
So Jeff, I have you representing Lumen as an ILEC and Tim as the BESP. So
Correct.
I got you, Jonathan. I got you, Jeff, but all right, so I do not show the BESP representatives here. Intrado, Sean. Okay. Representing NNTC, Darla. Representing T-Mobile, Jenny.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you. Representing Viero, Ryan or Mary?
Yes, this is Ryan. We're both here. Mary's here too.
Thank you. Representing Cinch, Cindy, Tina, or Josh?
Cindy's here.
Representing Bandwidth, Jay or Erica?
This is Jay. I'm here.
Okay, so representing 911's Jody, Gunnison County.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Representing Morgan County, Danette.
Good morning, I'm here.
Representing Grand Junction, Cindy.
Good morning, I'm here.
Yep. Representing Larimer, Kimberly, Valerie, or Tracy.
Good morning, this is Kimberly. I'm on.
Representing AdCom, Jackie or Ron.
Good morning, this is Jackie. I'm here.
Representing Eagle County, Beth.
Good morning, this is Beth. I'm here.
Good morning. Representing Sterling, Felicia.
Felicia's here. Good morning.
Jeffco, Jeff Irvin.
You couldn't get off mute. This is Jeff Irvin.
Thank you, Jeff. Representing Delta, Karina. Representing Douglas, Deanie or Shannon?
Deanie.
Thank you. Denver, Andrew or Jody?
Andrew's on.
Me too.
Thank you both. Jeff Com, Michael or Kevin?
Good morning, Mike Brewer here.
Aurora, Tina or Scott? I'm going to do a quick look in the chat. Okay, so I show that Tim has joined representing Lumen. Darla has also joined representing NNTC. Sean from Entrado. Got it. All right, back to, I don't think we have Tina or Scott on from Aurora. So moving on to Arapahoe, Kathy. Representing Metza, Matt or Alex?
Alex is here.
Thank you. Garfield, Carl or Tom?
Carl is here.
And representing Boulder, Patty or Christine?
Patty's on.
Thank you. All right, we do have majority and just checking the chat one more time. Okay, and for those who are not a voting member, but you want to sign in, I just put the link to the sign-in sheet in the chat again. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jennifer.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Holly, for that. And in the interest of time and organization, if you are not a voting member but are here, if you would just go ahead and throw your name and your agency or company into the chat. I know we've got the sign-in sheet, but that way those of us who are in the meeting can see who else is in the meeting. And that is not what we're looking for. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is to approve these September minutes. So I have put those on the screen and I will scroll slowly, although thank you, Holly, for sending out the materials ahead of time. So hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes ahead of the meeting. I'll just fix this. That would not be the whole fix. There we go. And I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Jeff Irvin, so moved.
Thank you, Jeff. And Andrew seconds. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the September meeting minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Okay. So our presentation this month is from FirstNet with Kim Coleman Madsen, and she's going to talk to us about FirstNet serving as a backup to our EZNet. Kim, I haven't been watching the chat that closely. Are you on the call?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear and see you. So I will stop sharing so that you can share.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Let me ensure I get to the right screen. Bear with me just a moment. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Coleman Madsen. I'm with the First Responder Network Authority. I'm going to tell you who that is for those of you who are unfamiliar with FirstNet. But first, I'm really pleased to be back with you. I've known many of you all the way back to 30 years. Some of you, Beth Jabransky, hello. I actually have been in the 911 community since 1995 here in Colorado. And then I've made my way from 911 into the state of Colorado, both on the LMR planning side and then on the FirstNet planning side for many years. And then I jumped to the FirstNet Authority in 2019, where I supported all of our engagements into the FirstNet Authority's Boulder technical facility. I'm pleased to talk with you today. I'll share with you that 911 is kind of my first love, and you all, the work you all do has a tremendous spot in my heart. And as I work now on technology in support of public safety, I'm really excited to be able to share with you how FirstNet is a bit of a differentiator when it comes to providing, frankly, tertiary support of EZNets across the country. And there are some states already using it. I'm going to tell you the story of how that looks a little bit. I'm going to put in the chat after the presentation a link to our YouTube page, specifically on 911, where you can go out and watch some videos at your leisure about some of the work that's being done. And certainly am a resource here, as well as a couple of colleagues of mine. And all of that information will be in our deck, which I will share with Jennifer after to share with all of you. I absolutely welcome and invite questions. I believe Jeff Reeve with AT&T is on the line. He provides AT&T and public safety solutions regarding 911 connectivity, not specific to the FirstNet program. So we also have a touch point to FirstNet. Remember, AT&T has a pretty large public safety solutions umbrella. I'll qualify, I am with the U.S. Department of Commerce and not an employee of AT&T. And so it's not my intent here to actually suggest anything other than you understanding the FirstNet, the program, and the importance that FirstNet provides as a backup to EZNets across the country now, which is, I think, a different capability than what was initially envisioned, honestly. We thought of FirstNet as smartphones, but I'll get into that. I'm going to kind of go pretty quickly through a lot of the history content for those of you who aren't familiar, and then we'll get to the meat of the discussion. So let me make sure I flip my screen. I'm actually going to go off screen also, just so you all can focus on the presentation as well. Okay. Let's see. Okay, did my screen flip, my deck flip, just to make sure?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. So the FirstNet Authority, we are an independent agency within the U.S. Department of Commerce, and a lot of folks don't realize that. The government actually developed the FirstNet program, and within the Department of Commerce, there's an organization called the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, and they oversee federal spectrum, and they also oversee the FirstNet program, although the authority that I'm part of is actually designated as a independent authority within the U.S. government. Our spectrum that we have, which I'll talk about, is actually authorized by the FCC, but we also fall in this unique position of being under the NTIA. Our mission since 2012, that's when we were created by Congress, is to oversee the build-out, deployment, and operation of the nation's public safety broadband network. And that network is called FirstNet. And I'm going to talk in another slide about the different brands of FirstNet, because in the marketplace, sometimes it isn't clear. And so I'm pleased to have the opportunity to provide clarity where I can. But our job really is twofold. If you look at the nuts and bolts of the law, it comes down to two things. First, that we deploy, operate, and maintain with the partner AT&T, the FirstNet network, and that we also have almost 50 public safety folks, former public safety practitioners, first responders, who daily engage with and meet with public safety agencies and first responders themselves to ensure that the network evolves over the years and that your voice is represented in the evolution of that network, frankly, whether you're a user of the network or not. This gives a lot of history in 10 years, but we are born out of the 9/11 attack, where we all know that fateful and tragic day, what happened. Communications failed in many ways. And out of the report in 2004, the final finding that was enacted upon by the Congress was to suggest the creation of a nationwide broadband network. Eventually, it became a broadband network. There was many, many years of outreach and consultation across all of the states and territories. I was part of the Colorado team that went out. We went to literally every county in the state and every public safety agency that would talk with us about the plan for FirstNet. And in 2017, the Governor Hickenlooper at the time opted into the process and allowed for the network to be built in Colorado. Between 2017 and today, That network has been built out to the first 5 years of requirements that are in the contract between the FirstNet Authority and AT&T to deliver that network. To give you some context, part of that opt-in process, I was on that team. We actually got 33 new sites as part of that. We also got the distributed antenna system that is now in the Glenwood Canyon as a result of the FirstNet program. The distributed antenna system that is new to between the Lions and Estes Park area is a result of the FirstNet program. And then there were other in-building distributed antenna systems that were put in various buildings throughout the metro area as well. So the program did bring some direct benefit to public safety, and we're excited that it continues. It's actually a 25-year contract between the FirstNet Authority, the government, and AT&T, and we're about 5 years, almost 6 years into that contract. You hear, again, FirstNet out in the world, and you're wondering, well, who am I talking to? The authority is the government. And again, we're a team of about 230 people in the government who daily oversee the delivery of this network and take your feedback about the network. The branding in the middle, FirstNet built with AT&T, that is the network. So that's the network that goes from the Oconus, right, from Marianas Islands, Guam, all the way to the Virgin Islands and up to Maine. We're across all 50 states, the US territories, and the District of Columbia. And it really is a unique network. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why it's unique and why we would only come to you due to those unique qualities to even suggest and see states putting EZNets with tertiary backup on FirstNet. And then AT&T is the partner. Very quickly, what that looked like is the law actually gave the authority, the government, 20 megahertz of spectrum and about $7 billion actually. And they said, this is your funding. You can't come back to Congress for funding in the future years. So the business model that was built was this spectrum called, you'll hear it called Band 14. It was actually leased to AT&T, and we gave AT&T over the past 5 years about $6.5 billion. And then over the entire 25 years of the contract, AT&T is actually paying the government back for use of that spectrum because it's so valuable in the open market. It's a nationwide license in the 700 megahertz band, which is actually close to a lot of the spectrum that's used by all of you folks on your LMR systems here in Colorado. And so they are giving the government $18 billion back over 25 years. $3 billion of that will run the government for the 25 years. And then $15 billion by law, and that's billion with a B, is required to be reinvested back into the network. And that's why it's so important. We talk to you all daily through the country to understand how we should reinvest that. And we get tremendous scrutiny about how we invest things from Congress, from the GAO, from the Department of Commerce Inspector General, and from all of you, frankly, which is the most important scrutiny we welcome. And some estimate out in the open market that over the 25-year contract, AT&T will have invested about $40 billion back into the network directly to benefit public safety. So user eligibility, if we think about who our primary users are on the network, it's law, fire, EMS, 911, and emergency management, and then certain continuity of government. So if you think of elected officials who are supporting incident response, largely, during critical incidents that are man-caused or nature-caused, and then also defense and national security, although it's not listed here, they have a strong play because you see them participate in all of those disciplines above. But then think of all of the folks that you all call, especially in the 911 space, the PSAP or ECC, who you're calling daily to support you to handle an incident. And think of those folks as what we call extended primary. Those are utilities, hospitals, transportation, education. They all can be users on the network. They are given best effort on the network, but we have the ability to do something called uplift, which is to make them primary users for the period of an incident. And you, as the agencies that subscribe to FirstNet, can control that component. There's also the ability for those who their agency may not participate in FirstNet, but perhaps they, as a volunteer firefighter or as a dispatcher on their own, they want to go in and use FirstNet. They can actually go in through AT&T in a store, or they can go through a consultant and provide credentials and actually use the network for their personal devices too. So that's a very brief primer on FirstNet. And now I want to talk with you a little bit about the concepts of quality of service, priority, and preemption. This is, I'm going to call it QPP for ease of translation, but this is really the notion that on the FirstNet network, public safety is basically a first-class passenger. And this is the reason why I can come to you with confidence to say that that's how states across the country are considering and can have confidence in putting their EZNet capabilities, usually as a tertiary backup on FirstNet. And I like to use this aircraft travel analogy because it makes it pretty simple. Quality of service means that your flight leaves on time, you leave from Denver, you land in Miami, and you don't land in Boston. It's really just your overall experience is optimal and good. Priority means that you're the first-class passenger on FirstNet. Public safety does not have to wait in line. They don't have to dial a phone number to get priority. They simply are always prioritized on the network. So what does that mean? That means they board first, have the best pre-check line and the best seats on the airplane. And then preemption is the concept that in cases of extreme congestion on the network, which actually is very rare, but it does happen, if the flight is oversold, the public safety does not get bumped. So if the network becomes congested and the network has to manage routing people off of the network, and those people are typical AT&T commercial users who may share this spectrum because AT&T provided an all-band solution. All of their spectrum provides QPP, but if AT&T needs to move commercial users away, that's how they ensure that you all maintain, public safety maintains connectivity on the network. That's through that preemption capability. So that analogy is we don't call you in the gate area of the airport and tell you to fly tomorrow and we'll give you some vouchers in a hotel room. Public safety doesn't get bumped. Some other core features which you should be aware of as you think about, or I tell you the story of AT&T or of FirstNet, excuse me, as a backup to EZNet and a remote dispatching capability. The priority and preemption I mentioned, there's security 24/7/365 monitoring and its own security operations center. That local control piece I talked about, which I'll go into it a little bit more on another slide, that's really your ability not only to manage your users and devices, but to manage what we call uplift when you need those extended primary, perhaps school security, perhaps utilities, you want them to have a higher status or priority on the network for a period of an incident. The network offers end-to-end encryption. That is truly device to core encryption. A lot of times carriers from the tower out to the device, that plane of traffic is not encrypted, but on FirstNet it is. You also have the ability to add further encryption too, if desired. The network is very reliable, and it also now has some basic mission critical functions relative to push to talk, location services, and actually some data and video that traverse the network at a mission critical level or marking across the network. I'm also going to jump now into deployables. I'm going to tell you a little about deployables now, and then I'm going to circle back on it. And the reason I'm telling you about deployables is because this is a bit of a game changer for the program. And I know actually there's a few of you out there. Kimberly, if you don't mind, I'll call you out. LEDA owns one deployable. Boulder County and Boulder Police have deployables. I'm going to show you the form factor they have. And I believe Fremont County in the state also has bought a deployable as well. They don't own these large trucks. These are the large cell and light trucks that AT&T deploys and operates if there's an outage or a request to provide expanded coverage due to an incident. And those come free of charge when an agency subscribes to FirstNet. And they can request those at all times. They can request them immediately. There's a by contract 14-hour response time objective, but oftentimes those deployables come more quickly. Here in Colorado, the two deployables are typically stationed out of the Meade-Johnstown area off of I-25, but they are actually stationed across the country, and those are over 150 of them available to the FirstNet program specifically. They come in all form factors. The one that I mentioned that some of the agencies throughout the state own is that top compact rapid deployable, which I have a subsequent slide on, and I'll show to you here in just a minute. That is actually a cell site, a FirstNet cell site, band 14 cell site that agencies can own, operate, and maintain themselves. So you're not necessarily required to call AT&T to deploy coverage where you need it. Those other form factors are also available. The SATCOLD I touched on, communications vehicle is like an incident command vehicle, but it also functions as a cell site. And then the AT&T does offer some limited drone coverage via the Cell on Wings program. This compact rapid deployable, I want to talk a little bit about in more detail. We actually have one in our Boulder lab, and I'll touch on that lab and welcome you all to tour there if you ever come through the Boulder area. But it's basically a band 14 cell site. It says on our material a 1 mile range, but we've actually tested it to about 1.5 miles. And it covers, if you add a piece of equipment, which I won't go into in too much detail today, called Mega Range, it actually can potentially extend it to 4 miles. We're in the process of doing some testing. And it has Wi-Fi capabilities. So for some reason, frankly, there's someone who does not have FirstNet, but is at an incident where a deployable like this is set up, that that user could actually access cellular communications in the internet via this Wi-Fi bubble. It has multiple backhaul capabilities, including satellite. That Viasat satellite is actually prioritized for first responders as well. It offers Ethernet, commercial LTE, and then Wi-Fi too. It has about a 15-foot mast. It has a generator and a battery on board. And with that battery and generator, the generator is about 6 gallons. And it holds a gallon, or the backup fuel tank is 6 gallons. It holds a gallon of fuel. If you power cycle it with the battery, where the battery runs and dies after 3 to 4 hours, you power it again with the generator till it recharges. That deployable can be out there for approaching 6 or 7 days. It is waterproof and climate controlled. It has heating and cooling functions to manage the electronics. And it literally can be hitched to a truck that has a 1.5 or 2 inch ball. And I've actually been trained to deploy it, if that provides you some context. It literally takes the amount of time to drive where you need to deploy it, and then about 15 to 20 minutes to get it up and operational. The reason I tell you about this is because I actually asked our partners at AT&T FirstNet about if there are any ECCs in the country using this as backhaul when they have failures in their 911 connection or their EZNet connection, a complete failure. And I've been told of potentially in Tennessee and in Portland, Oregon. And the reason I share this with all of you is we're just getting our understanding of use cases around this. And this could be a game changer to understand if you have locations where your final mile of connectivity is potentially at more risk than it might be in other areas because your diversity is not true diversity. That's something that we are going to continue to explore with FirstNet and understand, because that we talked about Ethernet backhaul. You can actually take your network connection and go back out to this compact rapid deployable, and then via satellite, you could get connectivity. So it's something that, again, we don't have a lot of information about it. It's pretty new, but I've asked AT&T FirstNet to continue to work with us on gathering that, and I'll be pleased to share that back with you as we learn more. And then the other key capability I just want to touch on is that we have this website called FirstNet Central. Not only can you manage your users, but there's 2 other key capabilities in there that are really differentiators for FirstNet. There's a network status map where you get in real time a view to the health and wellness of the FirstNet network. So your agency can go in and see where every cell tower is at, can see a bunch of layers, weather, fires, flood or flooding issues. You can see coverage, and all of that is available in real time, as well as the ability to set up notifications when there's an unplanned or a planned outage on the FirstNet network. There's also the uplift request tool, which is what I alluded to earlier, and that's the ability to actually make those extended primary users temporarily primary users during the course of an incident. And that is all managed by the agency as well. I gave you a lot of information there before I jump into the crux of the conversation, but we have this document out here called Emergency Management Resource Guide. We've just updated it last month. The link is there, or the URL is there. It gives you a lot more detail on all of these things. And of course, our staff is available as resources, our government staff, in addition to any AT&T FirstNet people you may know. Now I want to get into the crux of the FirstNet connections to the ECC. So if we think about the kind of ecosystem of public safety communications and how that ecosystem really has evolved and matured over the past, I'll call it 15 years, really since the iPhone came out, and then subsequently other smartphones, and really changed the way the public interacts with technology. Think about on the left there, all of the public emergencies that you all manage, everything from man-caused to weather-caused and in between, and the notification means by which we get that information. And now with the advent of NG 911, states are equipped with EZNets, or the networks, to begin receiving this information. But we also know that the network is required, but the services that ride that network are equally important, and your ability to consume that information that comes in via those services is very important. So those NG 911 call centers that you all have now, NG 911, knowing that that is still defined in different ways, and from a policy perspective means different things to all of you, is the way you are willing to consume, manage, and push that information out. But in the end, it does today have the ability to go over public safety broadband networks like FirstNet exactly, to be able to go out to the responders in the field. So think of you, all of you, doing lots of different things. Some of you are sending links to callers and pushing that video straight out to the field. Some of you might be getting biometric information or other data through Rapid SOS as an example, and have the ability to, again, push that information into the field. The advanced capabilities of mobility with your CAD systems and with other databases you use, with your CCIC, NCIC. All of that information in real time out to the field on a network like FirstNet, because of that QPP capability and the confidence, frankly, that the network is going to prioritize that traffic for first responders. That's that ecosystem that I think we're in the early versions of, and we know we have a lot of opportunity in the coming years to really empower first responders and empower your centers to manage that information in a way that makes sense for your agencies. I touched on a little bit earlier, again, if we kind of take that emergency services ecosystem down a level, and we just think about the way you all receive data. You receive it via voice, text, multimedia. We still have wireline 911, VoIP calls, excuse me. All of that information is going through your EZNet and your NG Core services, and then getting out via a variety of methods, typically diverse methods, through that route and relay column out to your center, or out to your call handling system if you have a regionalized call handling system and or dispatch CAD mapping and analytics. And then 5 years ago, to be frank with you, we kind of thought FirstNet lived in that respond lane, right? I have FirstNet kind of highlighted in yellow there. It's a tower. We know that the first responders use cellular equipped devices to get that communication. But today, we also know, and frankly, I think COVID was a little bit of a spur to that. We saw some states doing it a little bit before, but COVID kind of pushed this into, provided more urgency around it. We now know that FirstNet also lives solidly in the route and relay line as well. And that's the piece I want to talk with you all about today. Excuse me. I do want to qualify as I step through these. These are meant to be very agnostic descriptions or basic architectural kind of views for all of you. They're meant to be EZNet agnostic, and they're really meant to focus on where FirstNet can fit into that landscape or that architecture relative to you all supporting and providing resiliency to your ability to take calls, to take them from the call all the way through the EZNet into your center, as well as to be able to take, frankly, put your dispatchers perhaps at a location that is not the brick and mortar that you've been used to for decades. So this first one I want to talk to you about is kind of really within that concept of remote capabilities, where FirstNet can provide PSAP continuity of operations with something as simple as a FirstNet-enabled laptop, a modem, think of a Cradlepoint or a Nighthawk, or even a phone hotspot. That goes via that VPN secure tunnel out through FirstNet And then via the internet, when the appropriate firewalls are set up, they can actually go back into the call handling host and even into the full public safety enterprise network for agencies. That has actually been done and is being done pretty prolifically out on the East Coast. There's different areas across the country as well that I will touch upon. But during COVID, both Arlington County and Alexandria, Virginia, kind of pioneered this capability. And they, I will put links to videos, as I mentioned, after this. We have a great video on this story where they talk about that. But today, Doug Campbell and Renee Gordon of Alexandria, as well as the Arlington folks, they actually have staff dispatching across 6 states. I believe that's what Renee told me last. So they have staff in Kentucky and Florida, West Virginia, and they are in Virginia proper. Their staff has the ability to, initially they pioneered it with call taking, but they do have dispatching capabilities now. And the only limitation they have right now is the ability to do their CJIS traffic, which FirstNet is actually partnering with the FBI to help solve in the future. But that is the one limitation of it at this point, and that's specific to Virginia's setup. If we look at the continuity of operations, kind of within that same concept as what Alexandria and Arlington are doing, you can also just do a FirstNet modem and have multiple laptops in the same location. So think about, again, just taking your operations out, whether it's to an incident command post, could be to an offsite where you're supporting a large event, and it's that same modem connectivity, tunneling back through the FirstNet network, firewalled into your call handling host and or your public safety enterprise network. Now, touching on the EZINet failover piece, that is a bit newer to FirstNet, and I can tell you that over the past, I believe, 3 years, I'm going to rattle off a few states off the top of my head. The state of Tennessee has a FirstNet as failover for, I think, just about every PSAP in their state. And that's sometimes as simple as a Cradlepoint or Peplink in their center or at their assigned to a number of consoles or seats at their center, and then the ability usually is a tertiary failover to have a seamless failover to FirstNet if they were to have something go wrong with their EZINet in terms of connectivity. It can be done at multiple points in that EZINet architecture. Here I'm showing you where the EZINet connection, where it's offsite and your NG core services, the connection is broken, but you still have your workstations and call handling host all on-prem. You can actually go, there's an alternate connection where you can route through FirstNet and down, typically, as I mentioned, through that modem. You can have confidence in this because of that QPP capability. As I mentioned, or I didn't mention, the state of Tennessee, the state of Iowa is one that's doing that. The state of Tennessee and the state of Kansas are both doing this. They're both AT&T EZINets. FirstNet in Iowa, though, is supporting an Iowa state-run network. Their Iowa Communications Network is their publicly owned fiber network. And they've over, I believe they're at the 60 to 70% rate of PSAPs that are using FirstNet as failover. We've got some great material out there. Blake DeRouchie, who many of you may know through NASNA, he's the Iowa State Program 911 Program Manager and can provide great detail about how they've done that. And then you can also have the option to have, if you have an issue between the call handling host and the ECC, if it's not on shared prem, then you can actually look at FirstNet again being an alternate connection to route those calls where the call handling host is at a different location than the dispatch center or where your 911 workstations are at. Again, this all requires that this be managed, especially if the EZINet provider is different than AT&T, which we know is the case in many states across the country. This has to be managed, I would say, first with the request and requirement from the state or the regions to work with their providers to make this happen. But again, we are beginning to see it in different flavors and forms. And then the last one I'll share about is using FirstNet for alternate routing. So I think about, I'll age myself a little bit. I haven't been in the ECC in over a decade. But if we think about to the legacy selective router or frankly, the EZNet, and you simply can't get to any of your call handling equipment and you're going to reroute to a 10-digit phone, that phone now can be a FirstNet smartphone. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to age myself again, thinking back to the rotary dial phone that it used to come in on when I was working in a center. And again, that FirstNet device has that QPP capability, or you could have multiple FirstNet devices if you routed to more than one 10-digit number. Okay, I kind of went through that very quickly. I'd be very pleased to pause and ask if there are any questions relative to this. Joe.
Sorry, I had to get off mute. In the first part, you're talking about the ViaNet satellites. Are they geostationary or are they LEO?
Great question. So Viasat is geostationary, 22,000 miles in the air, routes through that compact rapid deployable to the satellite. Well, through the compact rapid deployable to the satellite, down to the ground station for the satellite, out to the FirstNet core, and then back out to where it's going. The other piece is there's actually, I don't have a slide on it, apologize. I think I will include it in the final slides. They've taken that form factor of compact rapid deployable and they put it in 2 Pelican cases called the mini compact rapid deployable, and it is using Starlink. So FirstNet now supports Starlink and Viasat as satellite capabilities on the network. It's also exploring a partnership with AST Space Mobile to take that satellite call direct to the handset. And we expect to see that technology to come to market in the next, I would say, 18 to 24, maybe 36 months as well. Did I answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, it did. I was just concerned with the latency.
Our lab has tested that latency, and the latency is at about 700 milliseconds across that satellite connection. It's almost imperceptible unless you're calling 2 devices next to each other. It's pretty powerful in terms of where the technology has come.
Are there going to be opportunities to see that in operation?
Yes, my next slide, actually, you'll segue for me really well. We have a compact rapid deployable and a mini compact rapid deployable at our FirstNet Boulder facility, and I give tours there. In fact, I gave a tour to JeffCom 911, Boulder County 911, and South Metro Fires 911 folks yesterday afternoon, and we do live calls across that as an example. Yes, absolutely, in the state, have a resource for you to come and see that demonstrated. Kimberly.
Thanks, Kim. I just need to bring up a bit of a hiccup. So we looked at doing FirstNet as a backup for all of my PSAPs here. And as we started to dive in and really explore how we could bring in the FirstNet signal into our facilities, and we started to really look at maps and understand single points of failure, where do we have shared infrastructure, conduit space, etc. The FirstNet AT&T commercial FirstNet is riding on already existing infrastructure and leasing that infrastructure for connectivity. So for example, in my Estes area, they are leasing from Lumen. In my Loveland area, they are leasing from Comcast. So I think it's great, and I love the opportunity to think out of the box. But if our backhaul for that signal is AT&T FirstNet, and AT&T FirstNet is leasing from another carrier, we still have a point of failure, especially if the carrier happens to be experiencing the outage like Lumen in some of the areas. So I just wanted to bring that up.
No, please, I'm glad you did. And I completely agree, right? We know that's still a risk here in Colorado and in other states potentially. And that's where I think we're pushing to explore with AT&T FirstNet, where they're beginning to do some proof of concept with that compact rapid deployable, potentially providing connectivity as backhaul temporarily until that is resolved. And that's something we're pushing AT&T to explore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl, did you have a question?
Yes,
In the chat. Okay, let me look. I don't see anything in the chat. Apologies, Cheryl. Does someone else? Okay, do the mobile towers have capability to send out WIA alerts if alerting authority is on site of an emergency? The towers do, well, all of the cellular carriers towers send out WIA alerts. And if Jeff's still on the line, feel free to keep me honest, Jeff. Where it comes into play is FirstNet can allow an emergency manager or somebody else directed with the ability to send a WIA alert to do it from their FirstNet device, rides the FirstNet network with priority, and then that WIA alert goes out, if that makes sense. Yeah, good question.
Hey Kim, it's Jeff. I think you're correct on that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions on this topic? FirstNet is failover. Okay, then I'm just going to give a plug for our Boulder opportunity. I think you're all in a unique position that you're ideally no more than a couple 100 miles from Boulder, if not right up the hill like Boulder County Sheriffs. And our Boulder FirstNet Lab, we actually, if you do these 2 tours with us, our FirstNet Lab and our Public Safety Immersive Test Center, we ask if you can find 3 to 4 hours or a half day, we'd love to host you. The Boulder FirstNet Lab, we actually demonstrate in real time, experientially, that QPP capability, quality of service, priority, and preemption, showing you extreme congestion on the network, as well as how we are able to demonstrate and validate that you're prioritized on the network on at all times. That QPP capability, we only demonstrate one of those things in the lab. We do have a link to a demonstration of preemption out on the internet. I'll include that in the links. But it really is unique. The lab is really a differentiator for FirstNet, frankly, because that lab team of 9 telecom engineers, their job every day is to validate and ensure public safety's experience on the network. And if we find anomalies or issues or ways to improve, that information is immediately fed back to AT&T, as well as to their partners who provide services on the network. I also want to give a plug to our partners at NIST across town, the Public Safety Communications Research folks, and they look at public safety technology in that 5 to 20 year space. And so they've been doing a lot of work around training in virtual reality, a lot of interest to law and fire. They have been looking at training, or not training, but augmented reality capabilities. If how you can perhaps in an augmented reality view, look at incident command dashboards or pushing information out to folks in the field through capabilities like glasses and other devices. And then they're also looking at location-based services and really how do we solve the problem of tracking responder location in a GPS denied environment and frankly indoors, right? Mapping, tracking, and navigation indoors has really been a challenge. We all know for many years they would get out of their vehicle, bail, and we would lose track of them except if they could communicate that over the radio. And so that is something they're doing there. They do demonstrations of LiDAR mapping and talk about a lot of the work they're doing to spur industry and academic innovation in that space. I am your point of contact to come visit. Even if you only have an hour, you feel like you can't spare 3 hours, we would love to have any of you come through that have the time. Let me make sure it clicks. There we go. There's my contact information. And then Tracy Murdoch, she is the Senior Public Safety Advisor assigned to Colorado. She lives over in Crawford and then handles some of the other Western states. But we're both available at any time to be able to speak with all of you. We also have a couple of QR codes there. You can sign up for ECC newsletters to learn more use cases of how ECCs specifically are leveraging FirstNet. And then we have an adoption and technology survey where we're actually seeking your input, whether you're a FirstNet user or not, about the how the network should evolve in the future. And so, Jennifer, with that, I know there have been a few questions. I'm happy to take any others. Otherwise, I'm done.
That's awesome, Kim. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Kim?
So I do. This is Kimberly. I'm trying to find my hand. Can I just jump in?
Go ahead.
Thank you. For some reason, it's hidden today. So Kim, the backup, if we're able to figure out that common element of shared infrastructure, how do we connect FirstNet, your team, with Lumen's team to talk about strategically how we can use some of these FirstNet tools to back up 911 in Colorado?
I am ready to help facilitate that conversation as soon as you all are. You know, you have that relationship with Lumen. Jeff's on the line. We've got Dial In. Jeff's again on the AT&T Public Safety Solutions side. But they're all under the umbrella of the same, basically, president of FirstNet. His name is Jim Bugel. And frankly, it's been a bit of a drum I've been beating that this problem can't just be solved for AT&T EZNets. This needs to be solved as a capability that's an option for every EZNet in the state, or in the country, excuse me, not just in the state. And so I would welcome you all to let us participate in conversations as we try to help you figure that out, whether and how and when you find the funding to implement that. When you're ready, that's great. But we would like the government to be part of that conversation if you're able and willing and when you're ready. And we do that across the country as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Kimberly. Thank you, Kim. And I see Daryl's got his hand up.
Kim, are there any states that are not AT&T EZNet states that are currently using FirstNet for tertiary backup?
Yeah, that's Iowa. They have their own state-run fiber network. Blake DeRouchie, you know Blake from NASNA.
Right.
He implemented that program, Daryl. And then I'm working with AT&T to get an understanding of where other states are at that are non-AT&T EZNets as well.
Right.
And as I get that information, I absolutely want to share it with the ECC community broadly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. Anybody else? Seeing none, I want to thank you very much, Kim, for spending some time with us today. It's always a pleasure hearing from FirstNet and the innovations that are coming down the pike always. I know I've been trying to get over to Boulder to tour the lab. And so if anybody's interested in doing that, maybe we can make it a group tour. So I know I think Kim would be happy to accommodate that if we were wanting to put it together.
Yes, recently, earlier this year, we accommodated 75 folks from the NICSWIC community. I'm so happy to have as large a group as you all want to get together. And Jennifer, I'll shoot you the dates we've set through the first 6 months of the year, and maybe you can lock in a group or a couple of groups. Feel free to share that out. I'll also send you a PDF of this deck. Thank you so much for letting me participate today. It was great to see you all again.
Sounds great. Thank you. And we're happy to have you. Thanks a lot. All right. This is Jennifer, and moving on to, I'm going to see if I can stop sharing Kim's screen, or if Kim can stop sharing her screen. I'll go back to the agenda. Kim,
yes, sorry, working on
sorry.
it. Yep. There we go. No, I'm trying to figure it out. There we go. Okay.
All my Zoom controls are doing weird things today too, so yay for that. Okay. So this is Jennifer, and moving into standing reports. As you are well aware by now, we do not read these out in the middle of the meetings anymore. They are sent out ahead of time. Again, thank you, Holly, for doing that. But I will scroll slowly through in case people have questions on what's in the standing report. I think everybody's pretty familiar with what's going on with PUC activities. I did add the advice letter that CenturyLink filed, and that matter has been referred to administrative law judge after commission staff filed a protest letter, and we've got a couple of interventions in that as well. This is brand new as of, I believe, yesterday, but they reintroduced the 911 Saves Act at the federal level. So that is fantastic. I know Nina sent out a call for contacting your senators and representatives for reclassification. We're going to talk a little bit about reclassification at the end of the agenda as well. We've got surcharge information here, and deadlines for changing your ETC rates are fast approaching. If you want to change your rate for February, the notifications to the telecoms should be going out here shortly. So if you have any questions on that, just let me know. We are getting close to full participation on the authority and boundary mapping project, but if you haven't submitted yet, don't be intimidated by the fact that it's GIS data. Grant Smith here at the state is happy to help you through that. Okay, I'll pause and see if Daryl has anything to add since I'm still fairly new at this process.
I think you covered it well.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Lumen.
Hi, good morning. This is Tim. The only thing I have is we're still working on the ECATS deployment, and the main issue we're having is we're just not getting really any responses back from the PSAP community to be able to launch this service for you all. So I know we sent Jennifer something, just got sent to you a little bit ago from Tracy, giving you a sense of all the locations that we are still struggling with. So I don't know if that's something that you want to send out. I know we talked a little bit yesterday in the EZNet users call, but I wasn't sure exactly how we wanted to approach this next. If you were going to do something, I know we've sent out a handful of requests. So I think we're at a little bit of a need for some help.
This is Jennifer. I don't want to steal thunder from the EZNet users group report, although I don't think Kathy's here. But we did have substantial conversation about that at the EZNet users group, both on participation from the PSAPs, but also a little bit of a monkey wrench that's gotten thrown into the system because some of the PSAPs, most of the PSAPs that have Motorola call handling equipment are facing unexpected charges from Motorola in implementing ECATS. So I can just kind of foresee that that's going to slow the implementation of ECATS at this time. But I'll continue to work with Tracy to try and work with PSAPs on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see if we can't help on that Motorola issue too. I know we had a little bit of discussion with Intrado on the call yesterday as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Tim. Anything else?
Nothing else for me.
Any questions for Tim? Okay, thank you, Tim. And moving on to Intrado. Anything to highlight or a report to give?
No, nothing from us.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Any questions for Intrado? Okay, moving on to Bylaws Committee. Looks like a short and sweet update. Any questions for Kimberly? Hearing none, moving on to Jackie Louise and the Legislative Committee, which has been busy. Is Jackie Louise on?
I am. I'm looking for my unmute button. Are there any questions on my report? We are working on a lot of things. The classification of emergency communication specialist is the one that is in a draft form, and Representative Leader is sponsoring that bill. The others are still in process of trying to get the draft into drafting and all the sponsorships. Are there any questions about my report? Or do you want me to go into any detail on any of them?
Seeing or hearing none, thank you, Jackie Louise.
Thank you all.
Absolutely, and thank you all for your work. You have been extremely active, so we are grateful. Moving on to 988, is Kelly Bowman on the call? All right, moving on to Equal Access Committee. We have had a change in chair, and Holly Buys is now chair of the Equal Access Committee. So we have the report there, and I'll turn it over to Holly if she's got anything to highlight or questions for Holly.
Hi, Holly here. I mean, nothing additional unless there's questions. But I did just get reminded, did we not vote in a 988 position at the last meeting? Have I messed up by not adding that to the roster, or does that position not start until the new year?
The bylaws change takes effect in January.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Any questions for Holly and Equal Access Committee? Okay, they have a meeting scheduled for November 30th, and everyone is welcome to attend. Moving on to Outage Committee and Tina Powell. This committee has also been very active. Tina, are you on the call? Okay, Daryl, did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, first of all, it does show Tina Powell on this report. On the agenda, it still shows myself as the chair of this committee. So just pointing that out to be updated at the next task force meeting agenda. One thing that I have been noticing through the staff investigations recently are a couple of trends that I wanted to make people aware of. One is that we've had a number of outages that involve rollover calls. So the EZNet sees that all of the SIP sessions are busy at a PSAP and rolls calls over to a neighboring PSAP or to whoever the PSAP has set up as their rollover. And this generates a notification to the PSAP saying that there might be an outage. This can be very confusing, and we're going to be talking about it through the investigation process and potentially in outage investigation meetings with CenturyLink. But I did want the PSAPs to be aware of that issue so that if you get a notification that you are experiencing an outage and you test and you didn't have an outage, that may be what happened, is that you had a rollover call and that triggered an outage notification to be sent to the PSAP. Another issue that we have been seeing in a couple of different incidents, including Jackson County, as well as I think Sedgwick County was another one, is what appears to be, and we're still investigating these, but what appears to be a false activation of a PSAP abandonment device. I don't have any advice for you on what to do about that yet, other than we have been seeing some indications that Intrado is potentially detecting pad activations where there haven't been pad activations. So I wanted people to be aware that that is happening, and we're going to continue investigating that through the outage investigation process. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'll do my best to try to answer those.
Thank you, Daryl. Joe?
I think in the Jackson County outage discussion, they still had old pad devices from the E911 network. And so it may be that Intrado or Lumen wasn't removing that when they, but it's a kind of a question for Daryl, I guess, when they put in the new one and PSAPs want to make sure that they have one operational pad device, I guess.
Yes, that was a factor there. I don't know if that had anything to do with the apparent false activation that was detected by Intrado, but if Sedgwick County also had that, when we further that investigation, that may indicate some parallels there. Kimberly?
Thanks, Daryl. This is Kimberly. So the pad device is a little bit different than the Make Busy switch. And I say different, we didn't have a pad device in the old environment. Make Busy switches, the legacy ones were left on the wall at the Jackson PSAP. The pad activation had to do with that device being disconnected from the EZNet network. So nothing with switches. It's just a point of interest that when new switches were installed, the Make Busy switch, the old ones in this case at Jackson were not decommissioned. So just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Kimberly. Anybody else have any questions for me? All right, back to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Daryl. This is Jennifer, and moving on to Prepaid and Collections Committee. Does anybody have any questions for Jackie Louise as chair of that committee? Okay, moving on to Reports Committee. I have Daryl on here. We kind of worked on the report together, but we provide a report to the commission every other task force meeting, and November is one of the meetings where we approve that report. So I did send out a draft to the task force voting members last week. I apologize for the short notice on that. I will do better in the future. But I am going to put up a copy of this report here. Hold on just one second while I stop sharing and find it. I thought I had it up. Anyway, we had a number of input pieces into that report, which I very much appreciate. And hold on just a second. Okay. So we had a number of edits and changes and a couple of substantive changes. So I'm just going to go over these substantive additions that we had to the report. So I'm just going to scroll quickly, and the substantive changes I highlighted so we could look at them quickly. Otherwise, they were grammatical and punctuation edits for the most part. Let's see. By which I very much appreciate the input. Thank you so much to those who did that. Well, we might have to come back to that because that's not the version that I had done the edits in. So I'm just going to come back to that for now and not waste everybody's time. Let me go back to sharing the standing reports.
One with the highlighted sections.
Yeah, I'm looking for that and not finding it.
I have it.
Great.
I also have it up if you want me to share it.
Oh, good. Well, I have stopped sharing. So if someone wants to share it, that would be fantastic since I thought I had it up and I don't. Appreciate the help.
Yeah, Joe sent it by email, so it's not in the online version.
Oh, no, this is not it.
No?
Yeah, I worked on it this morning and incorporated people's recommendations and then highlighted it. So I just need to find
never
it.
mind.
Hold on, let me share mine and see if it's the one you're looking for.
That would be it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jody, for having my back. I appreciate that.
No.
So if you scroll up, I think it's on page 3 or 4.
I didn't see any highlights until page 9. Here.
I have that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. This was a suggestion made, and I very much appreciate this suggestion. I do want to highlight Matt Gage's work to that he did in getting all of the cell sector routing data to further the ECATS project. I very much appreciated his work on that, and he really helped us out. So thank you for that. Yep, there's the other activity. Oh, good. It was just somewhere else in the document. Someone made a suggestion that we add in our activity on the CenturyLink's advice letter that was filed, and that matter has been referred to an administrative law judge. So I added that into the report. Thank you for the suggestion. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, it was also suggested that we add in the very recent FCC order regarding changes to WIA and improvements to wireless emergency alerts. So if you'll scroll slowly down, we added those, and most of that has been copied and pasted directly out of their information that they sent out to IPAWS alerting authorities about the changes to WIA. Thanks, Jody. So those were substantive changes and additions to the report that went out last week. And I would open it up for comment or anything else, any other discussion before I call for a motion. This is, go ahead, Daryl.
I just wanted to say you took the blame for the short turnaround time on that, and that was actually my fault, and I can't let you do that. So just wanted to point that out.
Well, thanks. We'll get it together. Sorry about that. Cheryl, I see a hand. Okay, coming into the chat. Are you still typing, or did you hit enter? I didn't see. Thank you, Cheryl. Yes, kudos to Kimberly and Lita on adding that accessibility capability to their alerts. It's actually a really cool thing if you want to go to their website and check it out. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, any other discussion or additions to the report? Thank you, Tracy. That I did add that in. And you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Slightly changed there. So for accuracy, I flip-flopped something. So Lita protested and staff protested. And then after it was referred to the ALJ, that's when the motions to intervene were filed. So just wanted to clarify for accuracy.
Perfect. I can reorder that in the final draft. Anybody else? All right, thank you so much. And I will entertain a motion to approve the task force report to the commission.
So moved.
Tina seconds.
Thank you so much. Was that
This is Holly. Sorry, I don't know who moved.
I was gonna say, I
This is
think that was
Jeremy.
your.
Jeremy moved. Okay, thanks.
And Tina seconds. Thank you so much. All in favor of approval of the report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, going back to the standing reports. Kathy did file a lengthy EZNet users group report, and she is not on. So I will just ask if there was any questions or clarifications that those of us who were at the meeting could answer. Okay, moving on. No report from the GIS committee, although we continue to work with the GIS committee on the boundary report or boundary work that we're doing. Moving on to Colorado Public Safety Broadband update, Kristen Perry. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen? Hearing none, moving on to the PSCS report. Any requests or any questions for Deanie? Okay, any questions for Amanda and our SWIC update? Okay, moving on. Any updates or questions for Division of Fire Prevention and Control from Connie Johnson? Okay, Connie's still on the hot seat for the Resource Center update. Connie, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Would you just very quickly highlight the work that the Training Standards Institute is starting up?
But of course, very good meeting day before yesterday, I believe. Very well attended and went through all of the sections where people had worked on them before the hiatus was taken, and we got good response for people wanting to go through those and update them to get this back on its feet and out to centers in the state.
Awesome, thank you very much. And moving on to Rapid SOS, is Karen on the call? Okay, and CCOA, any questions or highlights for or from Kimberly? Great. Thanks everybody for the standing reports. We very much appreciate them. Okay. Now I have to go back and find my agenda, which I have lost.
Jennifer?
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question in that, you know, we used to have the reports actually delivered at the meetings. Now we're doing written reports. I know people in the 911 community are really busy, and I don't know if they actually have time to review the written reports or if it would be better to go back to the old way. And I thought I ought to ask that question.
Thank you, Joe. And I would leave it up to discussion among the task force members. I think we're certainly open to doing that either way. So I just throw it open to the floor. Carl, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think the reason why we went to the written reports is because it was taking a lot of time during the meeting, and we were running out of time for other stuff. I do like the written reports because I could always go back and refer to them.
Thank you, Carl. Who else has thoughts?
Jennifer, this is Jeff Irvin. I'd recommend keeping it the same way, but it might be good to send out a reminder to review the reports, you know, maybe a few days before the meeting.
So this is Holly. I just want to say, every time I send out the meeting package, I keep the language that says, remember, we will not be reviewing the reports during the meeting. Here's the link, please read them. So I just want to say we do remind folks that.
Thank you, Holly. And Connie's got her hand up.
Nothing really new other than to say, yes, I support the reports being available in a written form, available for future reference too.
Thank you, Connie. And Jody, you've got your hand up.
Just want to same support that I like the written reports ahead of time. I don't think it would hurt to have kind of a quick overview for things that are a little bit more lengthy. For example, with your report, you know, just kind of touching base on items, I think will prompt some additional conversation, but maybe a hybrid of both. But I do like the reports ahead of time.
Thanks, Jody. And Daryl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to basically make a reminder that one of the reasons we went to this format was because we were having to decide between having shorter presentations or no presentation and being able to have time to get through all of the reports. Alternatively, we could have a longer meeting, you know, maybe extend it to 2 p.m. instead. But as Jennifer said, it's up to the members of the task force how you want to do it, but I wanted to remind people that those were the choices that we were facing at the time.
Tina, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Jennifer. Oh my goodness, couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. I like the convenience of the written report. However, to Jody's point, I agree. I think if there's like an action item or something that, you know, just gleans a highlight verbally in the meeting for those to maybe nudge them to go and review them more thoroughly, that might be helpful.
That all makes sense. And it sounds like we've got a pretty good consensus for keeping the standing reports written ahead of time, but working more intentionally to highlight main points or things that might need further discussion during that standing report session. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's good. This is Beth.
I agree. This is Jeremy.
All right, and we will do that moving forward. And thank you, Joe, for raising the question. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is task force elections. We did have, so just for a kind of a process reminder, we conduct the elections in between the November and January meetings. Some of the positions that are open are specific to industry, and some of them are specific to 911. So we did send out ahead of time the expiring terms, and they are listed here. The only one I did not hear from is Tim Kunkelman running from the BESP. Tim, are you running again, or are you going to tap someone else within Lumen to take over here?
No, I was running again. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were seeking a request.
No problem. Okay, so you guys can see that we've got people running again. We have Jacqueline Turwey. CML has designated Jeremy. I'm going to ask you to pronounce your last name so I don't get it wrong.
Schubach.
Schubach, thank you. CML has put Jeremy forth as their replacement for Jacqueline. We've got Cheryl running for accessibility. We've got Tim running for BESP, Jeff running again for ILEC, Jenny and Cindy running again for their positions. And then we had almost everybody in the 911 positions running again. We also have an additional person running in 911. Who was that? Oh, Kathy Rayleigh would like to be considered for a 911 position. And Jeff, is it Jeff? Hold on just a second. That's not it. There we go. When I added it up, we've got 11 people running for 10 911 positions, but we might have to, you guys might have to check me on that one. So what I'm going to do here is ask for anybody else who would like to nominate from the floor, either themselves or someone else. And if at the end of that process we have more positions than available, I will send out a ballot via Google form at the close of this meeting so that we have elections for January. Holly.
Jennifer, I am counting 11 positions available.
Oh, good. Then I was off somewhere.
I show 11 positions available, of which 10 folks want to run again. One person is stepping down, and then I think you just said Kathy wants to fill a spot. So
right.
So,
and on the
okay.
screen, I'm showing these are all the people who reached out to me via email to say that they either wanted to run or run again. I had Kathy Rayleigh, Michael Brewer, Jeff Irvin, Andrew Dameron, Deanie Shin, Cindy Castile, Alicia Librand, Matt Gage, Danette Martin, Carl Stevens, Beth Dobransky, all for 911.
How many is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay. I think that there's 11 positions open, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me look at the participant list real quick.
It's entirely possible that I counted wrong.
Yeah, let me, I mean, me too. Let's see. 1. Ten. Ugh. Maybe there are only 10. Hold on. 1. Well, according to the participant list, there are 10 positions, but now I'm confused because I show 11 on the agenda.
Well, we have 11 people running for those 10 open positions.
I don't have Kathy listed on the agenda.
I just added her as running.
Let me compare.
But you have one stepping down.
Right. So that should slide right in.
I don't know why I show that we have 11 positions on the agenda though. Okay. Got Danette. Cindy. Jeff Irvin.
Yeah, I'm counting 10 on the participant list that are open.
Teeny.
Oh, I know why. We're
Okay.
looking at term expirations, but Karina's term wasn't over. She's stepping down though due to staffing issues. So that's why we have 11 positions open.
Gotcha. Okay. So then technically Kathy could slide into
Karina's
and then run again next year when it expires for another full 2 years or another
Correct.
full. Okay. All right. Let me just.
Okay, this is Jennifer. Now that we've got that sorted out, and thank you, Holly. I see Daryl's got his hand up.
Have we confirmed that, because the position goes with the agency rather than the individual, is there anybody else in Karina's agency that would want to take that position?
I did not ask her, but I can reach out and ask.
Okay, my guess is if it's a staffing issue, then probably not, but technically that's how it works.
Okay. I will reach back out to Karina and ask. And are there any other nominations, either self or volunteering people who would like to run?
Hey, Jennifer, this is Tina.
Hi, Tina.
I would like to nominate Sarah Franz from Aurora 911 to run for a 911 position.
Okay. Thank you. And is Sarah on the call and does she accept?
I am, and I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that definitely puts us with.
I'm sorry. I have a question real quick, just
Yeah.
for that sake. Sarah was from Aurora.
Yes.
Um,
But we already have Aurora nominated or as a position, right?
we do. That was my question: is can they have two people from the same agency?
Two positions?
Yeah,
I'm
since
gonna-
I don't think Aurora is up yet.
I'm going to look to the expert and Daryl for that answer.
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot. Let me pull up the bylaws real quick.
And while you're doing that, Joe's got his hand up.
I'll defer to Kimberly, but my recollection is that the task force positions are positions of the governing bodies, not of the individuals who appointed on behalf of the governing body. And I don't know if that doesn't resolve it. I think we should have more governing bodies represented before we have multiple representatives from a single governing body. So everybody has a voice.
So this is Daryl. I recall this coming up before, and a governing body or a PSAP can be in a position. We have had in the past both JEFCOM and JCECA represented at the same time, but those two positions were representing, one was representing the PSAP and one was representing the governing body. So if Sarah wanted to is Tina, are you representing the PSAP or the governing body, and would Sarah be representing the other entity?
So I was thinking of her more as I believe that Scott Newman will likely, look to step back from some of these responsibilities. So the logistics of that, and if this doesn't work this time, that's okay. I know that I believe Scott and I are both up next year. We can certainly pend it.
So this is Holly, but Tina, I think it's you and then Scott's your alternate. So if Scott stepped down, then Sarah could still be your alternate. Like
Okay.
that wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't have to vote for that. You can choose who you want as your alternate.
Okay, well then I'll wait to see what Scott decides and then I'll just swap them out. Sorry to take up everyone's time with that discussion.
It's all good. Joe, you have your hand up. My guess is your question probably got answered with that resolution.
No, I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
At the time that JEFCOM and JCCA had positions, I think there were no other.
Thank you for calling, and this is Jeff.
Oh, hold on. I'll just mute him. Oh, I can't mute him.
But I think at that time there was an extra seat available that no one who was with a different jurisdiction one it was applying for, running for. But I think maybe there's something that the bylaws committee should look at.
This is Daryl, and I'll point out that that's still the case. Jeff Irvin and Michael Brewer are both voting members, one representing JCCA and one representing JeffCom. I think, Joe, if that is something we want to specify, then that probably would need to be a bylaws change, because I don't think there's anything in the bylaws preventing that now.
All
Or you
right.
could also address it just by not voting for that person if there's another option.
This is Jennifer. Great discussion. Kimberly, you've got your hand up.
So I think that there is a statement in the bylaws, and I don't have them up in front of me right now, but where we talk about just the diverse representation. And I do think it's critically important that we make sure that we have a lot of different areas represented in Colorado when it comes to 911, because we all have different experiences and different perspectives to bring to the table. So I think Daryl's point of, if somebody doesn't want to vote, they just won't vote for that person if there's multiple people serving in one particular area. But we definitely want to make sure that we are looking at that representation: small, large, urban, mountain, western slope, eastern plains, etc.
This is Jeff Irvin. Are we stuck on the number of positions that we're at now, or do we want to add some positions if there's demand?
Well, we did just add a position for 988. But changing numbers of positions would also require another bylaws change.
And just as a reminder, our most recent bylaws change will take effect in January. Kimberly, your hand's still up. Did you have something further?
No, I'm technically challenged today. Sorry.
I think we all are.
This is Daryl. Just to, this is what Kimberly was talking about from the bylaws. It says there's a paragraph that talks about things to consider in elections. It says prior attendance at task force meetings, either in person or electronically, the geographic location of the authority board and PSAP representatives shall be considered as significant factors in determining whether that person should be elected as a voting member. But ultimately, that the way that's in there is kind of a suggestion to the people voting, because they're the ones who are going to be voting, rather than saying that they can't run. So I don't know if, maybe at some point in the future that we may want to make that stronger language in the bylaws, but that's the way it's written right now.
Thank you, Daryl. Any further discussion or any further nominations from the floor? Okay, hearing none. From what I can tell, we have the same number of nominees or candidates as we do open 911 positions. Is that what you have as well, Holly?
So yes, the only odd thing is that Kathy would probably be filling a current position if Karina doesn't want it. I guess right now we don't know if Karina's going to replace somebody else with her spot though. So I don't know if we could just like vote by acclamation today. I mean, we could maybe do everybody except for that one position.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is separate out that position. It's not a term expiration. I will reach out to Karina after the meeting and ask if she intends to replace herself with someone else. And if not, then we can vote on that particular position in January, if that's acceptable. Joe, you have your hand up.
So if we do that, then don't we have 11 people in 10 positions? And so we have to vote as to which of the 11 get on the 10 positions?
No, outside of Karina's, Carl, go ahead.
Go ahead and finish. You may be answering what I was going to ask.
I was just gonna say, we have 10 open positions with term expirations, and we have 10 people willing to fill those term expirations. They're all the same. They're just asking to refill. Karina's position is a position being removed for non-attendance, but that, as Daryl pointed out, that position does belong to the authority. And so I need to reach out to Karina and see if she wants to replace herself with someone else at the authority. If not, then we can vote on Kathy's taking that place at the January meeting. But the slate for the term expirations is full without contention.
So if somebody wants a position, they only can get it if someone is resigning.
No, right now is the time to volunteer or to put yourself up as a candidate if you want to be a voting member.
I
That's
thought
why we're
Kathy was
asking.
put up.
Kathy's put up. Kathy's the only new one who isn't already on the slate.
Right. So does she get voted on? Do you vote for 10 of the 11 people, including Kathy, or is Kathy only get considered if somebody's dropping off of the current this year's slate?
I see what you're saying. Carl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, maybe what my suggestion would be or recommendation is reach out to Karina, see if somebody's able to fill the position. If not, we could fill all the positions by acclamation. If somebody at her agency fills it, then send the vote out.
The alternative is she could have appointed somebody else or resigned. She resigned, therefore conclude that she doesn't have somebody else she wants to appoint to that position.
Well, that was my mistake. I didn't tell her that she had the opportunity to appoint someone else. So to be fair, I need to go back and let her know that.
Okay, this is Daryl. I'm sorry for this, but Jennifer, did you say that her position is being vacated due to lack of attendance or that she's stepping down?
Lack of attendance, but she does not want to rerun for election.
Okay, if it's lack of attendance, then I don't think they get to appoint somebody else.
Oh.
I misunderstood the reason why the position was becoming vacated.
Okay, so I'm just looking through the bylaws to make sure that we do this right. Attendance at meetings. A voting member who misses 2 or more regular meetings is subject to removal as provided in Article 2, Section 4 of the bylaws. And when I reached out to Karina, it was because of attendance. It was because of that clause.
Right, and it says that the position shall become vacant. Any position shall become vacant under this section, being removal for attendance, shall be filled in accordance with section 5.4 of this article. 5.4 says that the remaining unexpired term shall be filled at the next regular meeting at which a quorum is present. So I misunderstood what you were saying earlier as to the reason why the position was becoming vacated. If it's due to attendance, then they don't get to pick a replacement.
Okay, good to know. Then what we have is 11 open positions and 11 candidates. That's what you got too, right, Holly?
I think Holly lost her internet connection.
Oh, well, I'm glad we didn't.
I got back on.
She's back. Okay, she's back.
I think.
It's her Zoom account that we're using.
I did get kicked out. I'm glad it didn't knock everybody off. Yes, that's what I show is 10 reappointments and 1 replacement appointment, replacing the position that Karina held by Kathy.
Okay. So at this point, do we have anybody else who is running or would like to nominate someone else for candidacy for a 911 position? And if not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the slate of candidates as seen on the screen. I think that, yeah, I got everybody here by acclamation. Thank you, Cheryl. And do we have a second?
This is Ryan at Viero. I second that.
Thank you, Ryan. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
So does Kathy get on the one that's being vacated, or is that a
Yes.
separate motion?
No, we're voting the slate as seen on the screen by acclamation, and Kathy would take Karina's position. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations, everybody.
I saw a question chat about attendance.
Sorry, real quick, will you confirm who seconded that?
Yes, it was Ryan with Viero.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I answered Chelsea. Joe, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So moving down the agenda, next up is the recommended standards discussion. So I think you guys can still see my screen, and you should see 2024 recommended 911 standards. Is that right? Okay. So again, this is the commission may consider standards adopted by standards bodies, and the commission's 911 advisory task force shall publish at least annually a list of standards that it recommends to be considered by the commission for this purpose. So we sent this out ahead of time. And Matt Gage went through and made a number of revisions to dates and links. So thank you, Matt. I know he's not here, but I'll call him out again. But I did not see any substantive changes to the standards that were sent out for your consideration ahead of time. So I will just slowly scroll through here and see if anybody has any questions or anything to add.
So this is Daryl. The only thing I'll add is that this is a requirement under the rules that the task force do this for the commission annually. And after they are approved, they will be filed in a repository proceeding with the commission.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Daryl. Does anybody have any questions or comments or additions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve these recommended standards.
So moved, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do we have a second?
Carl seconds.
Thank you, Carl. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, task force. Okay, moving down the agenda, we've already approved the report to the commission, so I'm going to move on to the ADT pilot program. We did send out information on this earlier, but I've asked Therese to join us for a very quick high-level overview of what this pilot program opportunity is, so that you can be fully aware of the opportunity that we have. Therese, are you still on the call?
I am. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I apologize in advance for my voice. I'm a little under the weather, but hello, everyone. My name is Therese Kent, and I am the Public Safety Liaison for ADT. I work on a couple different projects and initiatives, and I've had the honor of working with some of the agencies here on the call today. So thank you so much, and pleasure to meet you all just in the essence of time. And I'm also not interested in a 5-hour meeting for you all. We'll keep this very brief. So AVSO1, you may have heard of it already, but it's coming soon. It's a new ANSI standard created in partnership with the Monitoring Association, PPVAR, public safety agencies, and the alarm industry. This is an absolute game changer, and you will hear more about it as time goes on. Just a quick teaser, as Jennifer pulled up the info sheet there. The new AVSO1 standard stands for Alarm Validation Scoring. Essentially, alarm companies will be adding an alarm score with the information provided when they call in or send over the alarm information to your PSAP. There is 5 levels. However, you will only see levels 1 through 4. Level 0 is no dispatch, so we've canceled it internally as a false alarm. Level 1 is a standard intrusion alarm. Level 2 is a proof of a person or unauthorized human. Level 3 is a confirmed threat to property. Level 4 is a confirmed threat to life. And with these levels in your standard SOPs, we can provide officers with valuable information for situational awareness to enhance safety and increase apprehensions. I think we could all agree with a little more information, we can save a lot more lives. And now we're in a data-driven world. So taking all that data and putting it into a score to give to you is just incredible. So at ADT, we've led the pilot program. Currently, we have a handful of PSAPs involved. Right now, we're looking for additional PSAPs to add to the AVSO1 pilot program. So if you're interested, the pilot program, ECCs are accepting the score and becoming more familiarized before the full launch, coming very soon. So it's a very easy process to join the pilot. If you are interested, feel free to send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat, and I will get you started on the pilot. With that, I thank you for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Jennifer.
Awesome. Thank you, Therese. And does anybody have any questions for Therese? Okay. Thanks a lot, Therese. Appreciate it. Okay. Job descriptions and reclassification. So Daryl and I attended the mid-year NASNA meeting a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the 911.gov and National 911 project. And they are obviously working on reclassification just like many of us are, both at the state and national level. But they stated that the Office of Management and Budget is starting to collect data in preparation for their round of consideration of classifications again. With that, they could reach out to any PSAP in the country randomly and ask for data, including job descriptions. So I know that we did a project a couple of years ago in the state to update CommCenter's job descriptions. And we did a lot of work on that. And we've got some, I know the Resource Center has template job descriptions for your use on that, but we wanted to highlight and have you take a moment and go to the 911.gov link there and look at the job description guidance that they have, because if we are not successful with the 911 Saves Act, then the Office of Management and Budget will reconsider our classification again and having information in the job descriptions that accurately reflects the job responsibilities and the duties that telecommunicators have in the daily performance of their duties will go a long way toward helping OMB classify us as public safety rather than secretarial. So I just encourage you to use that link to go and look at the sample job descriptions. Go to the resource center and check out the sample job descriptions that we put together at the state level. And if you have any questions or would like some guidance or assistance in redoing your own job descriptions, I'm happy to help. But it's extremely important that when OMB reaches out, they're receiving job descriptions that are current and accurately reflect the life-saving work that we do at 911. So I will pause there and see if Daryl has anything to add or if anybody has any questions.
I think you covered it well.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Everybody's like, nope, we're done. This meeting is long.
I have a really quick question, Jennifer. Is there a timeline or a deadline that that we need to update those job classifications or offer suggestions on those? Or is that just internal?
It's an internal process to your agency. However, I believe they said that OMB would start the data collection process within the next 6 months. Do I have that right, Daryl? Is that the note that you took?
I believe that's correct.
So sometime within the next 6 months, having all our ducks in a row would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
And apparently it's random, so I don't know that they're actually going to collect any job descriptions from Colorado, but they might.
Perfect. And finally, we are working on our data collection forms for both the PUC and the Resource Center reaching out for our annual data collection. And we wanted to see if the task force had any thoughts or ideas on what kind of data would be helpful to you for us to gather as part of that annual collection.
Hi, Jennifer. Michael from Summit County. I think it'd be nice to know, I'm guessing you'll have the traditional contact information. I think it would be nice to know phone systems, CAD systems. So if we're having issues, we can reach out to similar agencies, similar partners.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. And I'm going to put Michael on the spot and introduce him as one of our newest comm center directors. He is now the director of Summit County up there in Silverthorne, Dillon area. So thank you and welcome to the state. We do actually collect that data. And so I have that for you. If you want to reach out, we can definitely get that to you now.
Awesome. You're ahead of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome.
This is Daryl. I wanted to point out too that we've always, when I say we, I mean going back to my resource center days when we started collecting this data, we've always asked for that type of data, but we don't publish it because we don't want to necessarily give vendors a target list of people to contact and harass. So we have that information, but it's usually available upon request. So a lot of times if you want to know something, you can't find it anywhere, unlike the Colorado 911 Resource Center website. If you contact Connie, she can help you out.
Perfect. Thank you, Daryl. Who else has some thoughts?
Hey, Jennifer, this is Beth from Eagle County. Just so you guys know, we have had a discussion with regards to maybe starting to try to gather TERT information at the same time. So we do one gathering of all that information versus a couple reaches out. I'll follow up with Lynette and make sure we're on task with you guys though.
Perfect. And when you and Lynelle are ready to reach out, you can reach out to either myself or Connie as to which questions you want to ask.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I don't remember if the survey asked for salary or wages, as well as like the last pay raise percentage.
It does ask for salary information. We haven't asked for pay rise information, but we do ask for salary ranges for line level and for supervisor and for director manager level.
And this is Connie. Carl, that information is also available upon request. And to Beth about TERT, we had discussed it a little bit with a survey that Linnell had sent. And I would like to hear from you guys which questions you'd like on the survey.
Sounds good. Thank you, Connie. I'll follow up with her. It's been a little bit since we chatted.
Thanks.
Both. And Joe, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just for clarification, I was listening at some point. Is this the Resource Center survey, or is this the survey based on the rules for the responses to the FCC data collection requirement on fees?
We're looking for feedback for both.
Just because I think if the Resource Center is collecting it, I think the fact that it's not disclosed, if the PUC is getting the document, may not still keep it confidential unless the confidentiality rules applied, and that's done in the data requests. If it's just the Resource Center, I think that's a private entity, so they can withhold any information they want from the public. And it's something we need to look at if there's information that is sensitive beyond just not wanting to be the target of marketing.
Well, the PUC data collection aligns closely with the FCC requirements, and the survey that goes out from the Resource Center delves a little bit more into that. So I think, does that answer your question?
Joe, just so you know, I don't think the Resource Center has ever collected information that would be security sensitive or anything along those lines. It's typically information that if somebody did a information request directly from the agency, like salary information, they would be able to get that anyway.
I just think we need to be sensitive to that, to make sure that information we're getting isn't security sensitive or otherwise something that wouldn't be public. And if we are, we're doing it in the right way so that it doesn't get made subject to public release.
It's a fair point, Joe, but just stating again, I don't think we've ever collected any information that would be security sensitive. It's very high level.
All right. Anybody else? Well, that brings us to open discussion. Does anybody have anything for good of the order? Joe?
There is the legislation that's being worked on by DORA, which I understand would have the PUC have a rulemaking proceeding to adopt currently proposed voluntary operational and personnel operational and training standards for PSAPs. And our concern is that could be kind of the crossing of a Rubicon of the PUC actually exercising regulatory authority over the PSAPs, and could certainly lead to it. And that's something that Brett's is not in favor of.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for bringing that up for discussion. So we are still working on language for that. So I can't go into specifics, but I do want to say that this proposed bill would direct the commission to open a proceeding to basically have the conversation about what rules and standards and minimum training standards we would be looking at for PSAPs. And it's designed to be an absolutely collaborative approach and involve those who are most affected by any kind of minimum training standards or recommendations, which would be the PSAPs. So it would be a opening of a conversation among those most affected to determine what those standards would be, and the standards would be completely voluntary. So the PUC would have no authority over the PSAPs, whether or not they adopted those voluntary standards or not. But we do believe that at some point, someone is going to take interest in why there aren't any minimum training standards in the state for 911 professionals. And we would rather get ahead of that and have those standards be set by those in the industry rather than set by those who are not affected or maybe not as close to being affected by those standards as the 911 professionals would be. In other words, we'd rather do it ourselves than have someone do it for us. I see, I'm going to go with, I didn't see whose hands were being raised because I was trying to look at the camera. So I'm going to go with Tina first and then Jackie.
Well, Jennifer, thank you. I'll be quick. I just want to echo what you said, and just from the perspective that as an industry, we can't wait for reclassification to do all of the things to professionalize our industry. We can't wait for the reclass and then start the work. We have to do that now. And I think that training requirements and certification is a part of that. We are one of a collection of states who do not have those standards in place, and other states do. And I think that it lends to credibility. So, you know, for what it's worth, I fully support this, and I'm not concerned about governance issues because of it.
Thank you, Tina. Jackie?
This is Jackie. I just wanted to point out that the legislative committee does have that in their report, and they are looking at it as a group. So if you'd like to be part of that conversation, please join the legislative committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Daryl?
Jackie just stole my thunder. That's basically what I was going to say. It is actually in the report, in the standing reports document. And as Jennifer said, we do have some draft language. It's less than 1 page long, because it is a very simple bill that just directs the commission to hold a rulemaking and then prohibits the commission from taking enforcement action against local agencies for not meeting the standards, which makes them purely voluntary. So anybody who is interested, when we do get the go-ahead to share that language, we will be sharing it with the legislative committee. So anybody who is interested in participating in that discussion, please consider joining and attending legislative committee meetings. There's a lot of really good work being done in there outside of that bill as well. So kudos to Jackie for running such a good committee.
Thank you, Daryl. Tina, I didn't see if your hand was down and went back up or if it's still up from before.
It's down.
Okay.
About to be down.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a proposal a number of years ago to move the oversight of 911 to the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management, and we killed that legislative effort because the PUC is a regulatory agency which regulates basic emergency service, not the PSAPs. We have a rulemaking that concerns operational and training standards for PSAPs that is regulating the PSAPs. And currently, if there is no enforcement mechanism other than any general mechanisms that may be available, that's the current proposal. And the sausage making machine of the legislative process can change that, or that can be changed in future years once we've crossed that Rubicon. And I think that's where what our concern is. I think, voluntary standards would be sufficient. That I think we've been working on that, and we're renewing that process.
Thanks, Joe. Voluntary standards is exactly what's in the bill, so I'm glad to hear you say that. We are one of 11 states that do not have minimum training standards for 911 professionals. It does speak to the fact that anybody off the street can sit down and take your 911 call and have your life in your hands. And I think it does help us professionalize as an industry and a profession to have those standards in place, even if they are voluntary. Tracy, you have your hand up.
This is just to kind of talk about how to get to the end goal that it sounds like everybody shares. One might be to consider approaching it like the text to 911 issue that the task force did and pass a resolution encouraging folks to adopt text to 911. I was just looking back at the report to the legislature in section 2 on PSAP service capabilities addressing text to 911, EMD, and foreign language interpretation. I mean, this task force does great work and everybody's here and contributing, and so maybe a resolution might be an option in lieu of legislation, but achieving the same desired end.
Thanks, Tracy. I think that there are lots of ways to get to where we're looking for, but I think we have to have the conversation in a formal manner as to what those standards might be. And I firmly believe that the best group to make that decision is the 911 community, rather than others that might be interested in intervening in that. And you're right, this group does a lot of great work, and I think we've got a lot of opportunity here. Joe.
Yeah, there's no issue about that the 911 community should do the voluntary standards. So we can do that through the Training Standards Institute or a committee. It's not just training standards. The email I got said that this legislation addresses operational and training standards, and it's whether they'd initially be voluntary or the legislation will get changed to make them mandatory. The issue is not, whether or not they're voluntary. It's that the PUC is having rulemaking regarding requirements for PSAPs operationally and with respect to training. That has never been done before. The PUC regulates telecommunications service providers, not 911 authorities. We currently have local control of 911, not state control.
Thank you, Joe. I think we pretty much went both sides of this conversation. Does anybody else have anything to add on that particular topic?
I see Cheryl raising her hand.
I did see Cheryl. I saw Cheryl put a note in the chat for a reminder of the Equal Access Committee meeting. Cheryl, did you have something else besides the note, or was that it? And I appreciate the reminder. Thank you. That was it. Okay, great. Well, I am sure that we will have more conversation about the proposed legislation when we are able to share the draft. So I appreciate the very robust and engaged conversation here, and thank you, Joe, for bringing it up so we could have that conversation. Does anybody else have anything for good of the order? All right, well then I will take the opportunity to thank everybody on all of the subcommittees who are doing excellent work on behalf of 911 in the state of Colorado. I'm very proud to be part of 911 in Colorado, and it's great to go to things like NASNA and other opportunities and talk about the great things that we're doing here, and you are all a part of that. So thank you very much. Congratulations to those who won re-election or election to task force voting member seat. We will have our next meeting on January 13th. We do have a lunch and learn in December, and I'll be sending out invitations for that shortly. So with that, I will wish you all a very wonderful day and a thank you to the veterans who have served and are serving. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.